So what are the ways that the landlord can take back their unit or their house?
To live in themselves?
To live in themselves, but I think there's other ways, like other reasons they can provide, right?
Well, I mean, there are tons of reasons, like if the tenant's running a drug lab in the house, the tenant's doing any of the other things that the Act says you can evict somebody for. But the one that I think you're asking about is if you want to take the house back, like to live in yourself. And in that case, you have to give the tenant 60 days notice. The notice has to be effective at the last day of a lease term or a month if it's a monthly tenancy. You have to pay the tenant a month's rent as compensation for doing that before the tenant leaves. And again, you give the notice to the tenant, 60 days notice saying you're going to live in it yourself. Then you apply to the board. You can apply right after you give the notice. You don't have to wait for the tenant to not move out. And when you apply to the board, you'll be required to file an affidavit saying that you, in good faith, just means you genuinely actually want to move back into the property and that you intend to live there for at least 12 months.
Okay.
And, one thing that I commonly get, which is a landlord say, because that's the great urban myth, right? Like if I have a problem with a tenant, I'll just say I'm moving back in. And you have to actually, all that's required is that you show you genuinely intend to live there, but it has to be like for use as a residence. It can't be that I want to have my, to have the place back so that my son can stay there while he's in university in the summer. It can't be like that I can use it so that I can sleep there when I'm closer to work. It has to be to actually use it as a residence for at least 12 months.
Does that indicate like a primary residence? Because all of these other reasons might mean that I'm going there occasionally.
Yeah, no, occasional use. Generally speaking, and every case is different, of course, but generally speaking, occasional use does not constitute residential occupation for the purposes of evicting a tenant.
What is the document or the form that the landlord needs?
N12.
That's for if they intend to move back to the house themselves.
Yeah, or if they're, renting out the basement and they don't want to rent it anymore because now their kids have grown up and there's not enough room in the house, or they're going to move granny into the basement or whatever the case may be, same form.
I see.